Hi, Zina. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're super busy. We invited you because Intrepid Group is one of the leaders of sustainable tourism in the world, and you are very well known in tourism. So please tell us at the beginning a little bit about the Intrepid Group, because maybe the audience doesn't know the company so well. And also, I know that you are a certified B Corp, so you can also tell a little bit about this and what it means.
For sure. Okay, well, thanks for having me. I'm Zina. I work for Intrepid Travel since 10 years. I'm actually the newly appointed managing director for the EMEA region. So Intrepid, as you mentioned, is a global leader in sustainable tourism. It's been 31 years old that we have been believing very strongly in a form of tourism that is positive for the planet and for the communities that we visit, and in a global scale. So we've been certified B Corp since 2017, and we are the largest travel company or travel B Corp. It's been a journey before we got there, but somehow we got there. And what it means and what B Corps do really, there are companies that believe in shared value and believes that their businesses should not just benefit to shareholders, but to all the stakeholders that are impacted, which means employees, customers, shareholders, obviously, but also the planet and the communities. So this is what B Corps are about, and yeah, that's.
Mm-hmm. And you have so many. I mean, Intrepid has received so many different awards, and the company has so many different initiatives. But I wanted to talk with you specifically about one direction that you decided to take, and one of the focus areas, which is empowering women in travel. So please tell us a little bit about this and why empowering women, why it's important for the company, but also why it's important to you personally.
Of course. So actually, as part of the B Corp certification, there is a big focus on that certification around what businesses do around gender equality in their business at different level, within their offices, with their supply chain, etc. And us as a global business, we found a big discrepancy in how we were achieving gender equality, goals or targets between, the Western world and the developing world. And a very maybe interesting example for this audience is that when we looked at our tour leader pool, which is a very large part of the people who work for us, for Intrepid, in places like Russia, we had more female guides working for us than in places like Morocco, where we had none. And so in 2017, we've set, and our CEO publicly announced that we wanted to set a goal to double the number of female tour leaders that work for us everywhere in the world, so we can impact positively, especially on that developing world or side of the world where we have a lot of our operations offices. And when this goal was set, it was the year when I was taking over the general manager position of our Morocco operation office. And it's become one of my goals, really, to find female guides. So I've realized that it would be challenging for two reasons. One of them, that was a reason that was common to a lot of the developing countries like Cambodia, Egypt, Jordan, Iran, Morocco, that the job of a guide wasn't seen as a suitable one for women to do because of cultural barrier, because it could be seen as a bit of a scandal, spending time, away from home on multi-day tours with foreigners that can be, male and female. And that was one common cultural challenge for a lot of us, general manager for these different developing countries. But there was a specific one to Morocco, which was one that was more regulation or structural issue. When we looked into the numbers, we found that only 4% of the guides in the whole country were female, while 25% of the workforce was female. So there was a discrepancy even within the country. And then when you start to dig into it, you find that the regulation around being guide was very opaque, very not clear. It's not like I dream to become a guide and I'm just going to go to a university or whatever, get that degree and become a guide. It's the case in Egypt, and it's the case in Turkey and in Jordan. But in Morocco, no. If you want to become a guide, you have to wait one day, maybe the Ministry of Tourism will issue a license, and then maybe you will become a guide. So you can wait all your life, and it might happen, it might not happen. But the problem with this is that being a guide is a very empowering job, because it's actually really well paid, and not just in Morocco, in many countries in the world. And it's a starting point in our industry, especially in the destination management side. A lot of general manager, operations manager, like managerial position started as guides. So it was another reason for me to think why women in my country would want to do this job. So this is where I realized I had a local challenge, which was to really get more licenses issued to female. And I started my lobbying kind of work and be, talking to the relevant people in the Ministry of Tourism, involving some of my contacts, because Intrepid in Morocco is quite large. We are the largest small group, the DMC in the country. So we employ a lot of people. We hire a lot of guides as well. And we've got some power that I thought I will use and get some influence maybe over the Ministry of Tourism, the people who work there, who are in charge of those issuing those licenses. And somehow it worked. And they've organized for the first time in 10 years, a massive national test that anyone could attend. Anyone, even if you haven't been a guide. I was thinking I should attend maybe and get my license myself, because it's quite well paid. So it was a good opportunity for a lot of people. So anyway, there's so we've sponsored girls. We've supported them even with teaching them the role of being a guide, because that's our specialty as a DMC, and sponsored them even financially. Paid their transport and accommodation so they can go and pass the test and help them throughout the process. And we somehow got some of our girls from the office and others who were licensed and others who didn't know, but start to hear about us because we were doing all of this noise, and then somehow became the DMC in the country that had the largest number of female licensed guides in the country.
Thank you. And apart from guiding, I know that you've been empowering women also in other ways, for example, by empowering women through your supply chain. Can you tell some about some of the activities there?
Yeah, so Intrepid always had, as part of our contracting policy, a clause that will make us want to privilege minorities and excluded people who are from excluded, not necessarily just women, but in general excluded communities or indigenous people from a contracting perspective. So for the same service, if we have the choice between a woman and a man, if it's the same service, similar quality prices, then we go for the woman. If we have the choice between an indigenous led business, then we'll go for this one. And so in addition to always wanting to go for local, so we more than 90% of our suppliers are local, and that's very important. So we've had that all the time. What really changed, it was in 2018, the same type of period, is we've launched our range of women expedition, initially in Morocco, Iran, and in Jordan. And then we expanded to more countries. And once we've done that, we've done it with the purpose that we wanted trips that empower women at all levels, and both on that destination side and customer side. So when we've designed these trips, we made the conscious effort that all the experience provider, the accommodation provider, the supplier that provide the transport are women-led or women-owned businesses. And this is really to add a bit more to this just simple clause we have in our contract. So it's a conscious effort that we make all the time. As an example, we have one of our transport supplier in Morocco that is women-owned, and she's the only one in the whole region. So she's the only woman who owns a transport company, because that's a job that really is seen as a man's job. And she's disturbing and she's disrupting the industry. She's looked at really strangely, but then we gave her the women expedition. We gave her more than just the women expedition in terms of business, more brand and more tours to operate for us. And then she started to build her business thanks to that. So she started with 3 vehicles, and now she's got a fleet of 20. And at some stage, she started to look actively for female drivers, because she knows that if she gets female drivers, then we will get more work to her. She understands what type of company we work for. And then we have male transport company that then approached us and said, we have female drivers. Would you work with us? So we're trying to show that when you do the right thing, then you can grow. It's always this link, and that's what defines a lot of the B Corps, is that link between purpose and profit, and the fact that while you balance both, you can still be successful and grow as a business.
Mm-hmm. And you are also supporting some of the social enterprises and including them into tour itineraries, right?
Yes, totally. We do that at different level. Again, if I take an example of Morocco, we have an amazing project in Marrakesh, which is a charity that is a restaurant. It started as a restaurant, which is a training center. It's called Amal Association. And what they do is they train women that are from the street, really very, very poor backgrounds. They train them to hospitality and services skills, and then they employ them within the restaurant or place them within different partners, restaurants, hotels that they work with. And it's a 6-month rolling out program that it's existed since like I think 5 or 6 years. And they started with the restaurants. Now they've got a cooking class. Then they expanded to delivery, meal delivery to kids' school, and they're becoming a very, very large, almost want to call it a business while it's a charity. And when you talk to their owner, which is an amazing Moroccan woman called Nora, she said to you, you know what, I'm not fundraising. I never ask for money. What I ask you is just come and eat in our restaurant, do a cooking class, and then the rest will follow. And the experiences are amazing. The food is delicious. So you actually eat, but for good cause, and so many women have benefited since it exists, and this is definitely the kind of charities, non-for-profit, that we try to involve and include in our trees because customers love it, and then they feel that they're doing something good just by traveling and just enjoying a meal, which is exactly the how we want our trips to operate.
Yeah, all these examples are amazing, but I'm afraid that some of our audience would be thinking, what are you talking about? We have no problem of female in Russia. So what would you say? I mean, and the problem is not about the female, but in every country there are different social issues. So I decided to invite you to give the example of women empowerment, but in case of Russia, it can be a different problem that needs to be solved, and it is in the hands of the private business also, not only the government, to solve the issue. But the question would be, why? What is the benefit for a private business, for a tour operator, in trying to solve some social issues? Why would you care, and what's in it for you?
In simple answer, people want to purchase from responsible businesses. So if you want to have a business, you need customers, and if you want to grow your business, you need to grow your customers, and customers and people are more and more conscious of who they're buying, anything from services, food, product. So it's not applicable just to travel business, it's applicable to every single industry. And so what we've seen is the more we've invested on the purpose space, the more we've grown, and the more we've grown our bottom line as well. So we've been a successful company, and we think we will still be, and we will keep thriving. And as soon as the COVID is behind us, that will be because we are investing more and more on that purpose base. So people or businesses who forget about this, or people or businesses actually that are cutting their budgets because of COVID and cutting, the responsible travel budgets or initiatives and all that, they're making the wrong decision, in my opinion. So I think to me that summarizes it all. The more you do in the purpose space, the more you grow as a business, and not forget about that, because that's
awesome.
This change.
The last quick question, if you can give an advice, like people are listening to us and they think, okay, it makes sense, I have this issue I would like to solve, I don't know how to start, where to start. What would be your advice, what they can do?
There's a start somewhere, because we've started somewhere. So when we became carbon neutral, before becoming carbon neutral, it was in 2010, but then in 2005, our co-founder already started to be conscious about, we've got a climate change problem. And if we want a travel industry, we need a planet. If we don't have a healthy planet, we will not have a travel industry. So how do we start? And they've started very simply by getting their leadership team to read books, to educate themselves, to watch the Al Gore documentary. And actually, this was the start. And then 5 years later, a lot of things happened. Somehow we became the largest travel carbon neutral company. My advice, it needs to start somewhere. If you don't know, it can be any topic. It can be the climate change one, or the women empowerment, gender equality, it can be animal welfare. It needs to start somewhere. And talking about animal welfare, we were the first travel company that stopped elephant riding. Back at the time, I remember the year before, I was on riding an elephant in Thailand with Intrepid, the year before. And I found it was a great experience. I had no clue the harm that this experience was doing to the elephant. And it was offered by the company I work for, and I was really happy about it. And in fact, it was one of our main source of revenue on our Thailand trip. That was a destination that was growing and all of that. But when we've done the analysis and we found that experts were telling us that it's actually not good and it's a practice that needs to end, we made the call to do it, knowing that we might lose money, we might lose customers, In fact, the opposite happened. Everyone else followed us, all the industries did the same, and then we've grown even further. So what I want to say is that if you want to do the right thing, you need to start somewhere. And then, just keep improving yourself, keep challenging yourself. And I don't think that we're perfect. I think we still can improve so many other things, but with time, we'll get there. And yeah, that's my advice. Start somewhere.
Awesome. This was great. Thank you so much for this interview.